Hello, you crafty little sausages. This is your little guide for the Roar Before the 24, which is a real-life race that iRacing does do. However, we are doing it in the LMP3, GT4s, and the touring cars. So the wonderful front-wheel drive goodnesses, they'll be in there as well. Good luck with your front tires on that note. So this is kind of going to be a video about the race / LMP3 because I do love that car. If you are new here, I do track guides for the LMP3, doing it all season, following the Fix series, which is obviously the same as the Open, but the Open setup can be much faster. Now, I do have a track guide out, which I will link somewhere around here, downstairs, upstairs, round and round. I don't know where I'll put it. Who knows where YouTube will put it either. But that'll be on the Fix setup, and I expect the Open setups will be quicker. They will be probably about a second, maybe a second half quicker, and that'll all be down to their straight line speed. They will be at least 10 mile an hour quicker in the straight line, if you got the right setup, of course. And they will be a bit slower through the corners. So through the infield stuff, they'll be a little bit slower around there, and the braking distance will therefore be increased. So bear that in mind if you are using a different setup from the Fix, which I highly do recommend because it will be shenanigans. You do need that extra 10 mile an hour on the straight line because overtaking will be a lot easier with 10 mile an hour over the Fix setup. So do not use the Fix setup in my opinion. Try and get 10 miles an hour and more out of it on a straight line, as well as being okay that you're not going to spin out in the infield, because obviously spinning out in an endurance race is not good. Anyway, looking at my lovely notes as I minimize Discord, it is a 2.4 hour race, which is 144 minutes, which is nuts. The reason I tell you the minutes, because then you can work out how many laps you're doing. So when you practice session in any car, doesn't matter which car, you work out your average lap time over 10 laps. And then you can work out how many laps you're going to do in your race. Obviously, that can be affected because the leaders might be going quicker and they might do more laps. But the lap count / time is based on the leader of that race. Doesn't really necessarily mean your class. So most of them will be a lot of LMP3s, I would imagine. It'll be the LMP3 leader, wherever he is. When he takes that white flag, the timer will hit 0 on his white flag. If you're behind him, you'll get white flag. But if you're in front of him, you won't get white flag until he overtakes you on that lap if he does. If he does overtake you, you'll get white flag. That'll be your race over. So you might do one lap less depending on where you are. So bear that in mind if you are coming to the end, and try and finish with about a lap extra fuel, I would recommend. So this is the other thing as well, being 144 minutes, you can work out how many laps you're doing. Therefore, you can work out how much fuel you will need. There will be pit stops, and check this again in your practice session because it will differ on tires. Generally, you can get the tires changed, all 4 tires changed before the fuel goes in. Now, I know that's true with the LMP3 because I've done it. It's probably true with the GT4, although please test it, and I've got no idea about the touring cars. To be honest, your back tires probably don't do a lot anyway because it's front wheel drive, front wheel steering, and most of the braking go to the front wheel. So look after your front tires, but have empty the tank out. So go into a practice session. On your setup, put the tank to like 1 gallon or 2 gallons, go around a lap, set your black box to full fuel and full tire service. There is a shortcut button which I'll put on screen now of how to do that in the options. You can actually set a physical button to do a full pit service. Technically, it does a little tire code for front tire, front right, front left, rear right, and then it puts 500 liters in your car, which is obviously impossible because it will just put the maximum in. But that button is very useful. You can also take out some of the letters depending on the tire situation, so you can take that out in the option session of just changing fronts if you want to, if you have done some testing. So that is a very useful button to set. Either set it on your steering wheel somewhere or a keyboard. Very useful button in these sort of maybe 1 or 2 pit stop race. I think there's going to be 2 pit stop, particularly the LMP3, I would have thought. So yeah, very useful. With the LMP3, you can change your tires with 15 gallons of fuel. So when we've tested it, the jacks come out on the car goes up, the fuel starts going in, the tires change. The tires stop getting changed when the car goes down, but there's still fuel going in it, and that is about the 15 gallon mark. I can't remember the literage of the tank at the moment, but I think it's just over half a tank. So please bear that in mind as you are going around. If you need to do a splash and dash at the end and it's less than 15 gallons, you might not want to take full tires because then you'll be, your longer stop. LMP3, definitely a 2-stop race. I've got that written here in my notes. Not sure about the other cars. Please go test them prior to seeing it. So all you need to do is fill up your car full up, do 10 laps or whatever, and see what your average fuel consumption is. You can work that out even without any fancy software like Race Labs or anything. Of just fill the car up, do your laps, and then stop at the start finish line somewhere, and then look at your black box on your fuel, and you'll see how much fuel you got left. Therefore, you can obviously minus that from the fuel tank, and then over 10 laps, you've used 20 gallons. So in 10 laps, you're using 20 gallons, you're using 2 gallons a lap. So therefore you can work out your fuel usage. All very simple, but it's worth doing it if you want to have a good, smooth race. Now, I will put a clip up here as well of a very, very useful clip. Check where your spotter is, because someone, who will remain nameless, didn't do that in the last 2.4 hour of Daytona, and he missed the pit stop. It was the only pit stop in a GR86, and he flew by his spotter and gave him a delightful little wave as he went through, and the face on him when he realized his mistake was disappointing. So he had to do another lap. He didn't have a lap's worth of fuel. He had to do another lap. He conked out of fuel coming just after the bus stop. He had to coast into the pit lane. He did get there, and I think he finished P4 in the end, but he was leading. Yes, learn from my mistakes, people. It hurts. But yeah, practice. You're going to need to practice this, by the way. Practice your pit entry. Practice your pit exit as well, because that is quite an awkward pit exit on Daytona. It's quite snug. So please bear that in mind. But basically, go and watch the track guide if you're watching LMP3. That'll be great. I'll probably put a link after this, actually. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll put the track guide after. It'll be a fast lap, so you'll see it all in its entirety after this. But if you want a breakdown version, go to the video where I actually explain what I'm doing and why I'm doing it and where I'm doing it, all that mumbo jumbo stuff. But yeah, I'll put a clip afterwards, after me waffling and chattering on about rubbish. But yeah, please go and have a check. Please go and practice, and bear in mind all these little works of endurance racing. I like endurance racing. It's not about flat out pace, it's about average lap time. Keep your average lap time as low as possible and you'll do well. Keep out of instance, keep the car clean, and you'll be absolute golden. And more importantly, make sure you get your pit stops down so you know exactly what you're doing, what pit stops, when, what time it takes to do the pit stop, what tires you want to replace, and all that mumbo jumbo. Make sure you got that nailed down. Even if you need to write it down and do it on a little pen and paper and stick it on a post-it on your monitors or something, do that. Because then you know, lap 50, I've got to do this. Lap 60, I've got to do this. Make it easy for yourself so you don't have to think about it. And then just drive and enjoy and keep out of trouble, and make sure you see the checker flag, because that is key. Otherwise, lap guide, lap to follow on the quick lap. And if you want to break it down, go watch the video. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you on the next one.